What is going on, crypto fiends? Thank you as always for tuning into the channel. I'm Ryan Rotolo, and today we're going to be talking about some technical analysis and fundamentals for Bitcoin, and giving you guys a good understanding if you should maybe buy Bitcoin before the halving or after the halving. All of that in today's video. Now, if you do find the video informative, I would greatly appreciate it if you would give it a thumbs up. It greatly helps the channel overall. A simple gesture goes such a long way. So thank you so much. So as you guys can see on the screen here, we have a lot going on, and I get that completely. It can look very confusing, but I'm going to do my best to simplify it for you. I'm going to dumb some stuff down to make it easier to understand for the beginners out there. So starting things off, we have these two maroon lines here. We have a support line and a resistance line. We have been trending through this range for quite a while now, ever since the bottom on March 12th, and doing quite well. We had one little wick go out of the channel, but that's really nothing to be too concerned about, especially if it's not the candle itself. But as you guys can see, it kind of looks like we're just gonna keep going up and up and up all the way to $12,000, and that's the video. I'll see you guys later. Just kidding. Unfortunately, it kind of looks like we may be having a correction very soon. As you guys can see, this green resistance level right here has been giving us some problems for a very long time. If we look back to around February 13th, major level resistance right there where we got completely hammered down, and of course things looked even worse after that. And the same thing applied back on June 26th. Where we hit that resistance level and we had another major issue. Same thing is applying right now. We managed to wick through it just barely, hitting around $9,473, but unfortunately we came crashing back down to around $8,800 that day. So as you guys can see, we are having major issues getting above that range, and in my opinion, until we can really get above that and close above that, we are not going to be going up any further. Now, don't get me wrong, the bulls have a couple advantages over the next week or so with the halving coming up, but so do the bears. So starting off with the bulls have fundamentals on their side for sure. The halving's coming up, things might start to get hyped up towards the halving. Whales may come in and pump up the space. New investors might come in and pump up the space. We might have a bunch of new volume and everyone's happy and everything goes to infinity and beyond. But the likelihood of that happening is very slim. Now, don't get me wrong. I personally think we are going to see some big percentage moves over the coming week, but that might be after the halving, and it might be down. And I know that sounds pretty simple, but I'll explain. So yes, we have this major level of resistance. That's great and all, but what else is really showing that things are looking bearish? Right down here, of course, we have our RSI. It's a very simple indicator. It pretty much just tells you if something is underbought or overbought. If the RSI, if this purple line is below the 30-point range, that means it's underbought. So as you can see on March 12th, when Bitcoin tanked in value, it went to the underbought zone, and that is exactly a phenomenal buying opportunity. And of course, when it goes to the overbought zone, that is not so great of a buying opportunity because, again, it is overbought. Pretty simple as that. A good example as to how this can counteract itself and how it could be completely wrong is right over here. As you can see, on May 3rd, we peaked at around 73 points. We came back down, tested around 69 points, and then skyrocketed all the way to 88 points. And of course, worked down eventually. So don't get me wrong, it is possible for the RSI to not be completely accurate and give us the right direction, but most of the time it does give us a good overall direction as to where the market is going. Another example is kind of like back here, how it can go all the way up to like 94 points, etc. So don't get me wrong, it's definitely possible, but the likelihood of that happening right now is very slim in my opinion. It is possible that we begin to come back down and range through the buying zone again, which is definitely not a bad thing for any of us. That's just another buying opportunity. and it allows us to continue stacking those sats. So one bearish sign right there. The next bearish sign is going to be the overall volume. The overall volume is pretty poopy dookie right now. As you guys can see, especially over the past day, our volume has been complete dog crap. And I mean, yes, you know, we have those 3% pumps here and there, but they usually come back down within the day. And that's normally just day traders and AI bots pumping up the space to make a quick buck or two. But that's not new money coming into the space. And that's what I want you guys to understand. We need new investors and new money to come into the cryptocurrency space to allow us to get to infinity and beyond. Right now, we have tacked on about $50 billion since the crash back in on March 12th. So that's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong at all. That is a lot of cheddar. But the majority of that money is just simply coming back in that was already in the market up here. That's not necessarily new money coming in. That's just people buying back into their positions. So that's that. That's the volume. The next thing I want to briefly talk about is going to be the MACD. As you guys can see, we have a trend going on here. We're looking at all the very simple and to the point indicators that everyone and their grandma uses, and sometimes that's the best way to go if you want a good understanding as to where the market's going, because these indicators have been around forever and they can be relatively accurate in giving you a direction as well. So as you can see with the MACD, we had a big red zone over here when we had our dump, and we've been in a very, very long green zone. We are starting to kind of get to a peak right here. As you can see, if we were kind of like over here or over here. Now, we have been in this range for quite a while, so the likelihood of this starting to have a downturn and actually being legitimate and coming through as a red zone is more likely. But again, you know, bulls could be strong here and continue this green wave further. But that's also something to consider as well. And the last thing I want to talk about with you guys is actually going to be comparing cryptocurrencies to the stock market. Now, I know a lot of you guys don't like people to do this because, you know, cryptocurrencies are their own entity and they shouldn't be compared. Well, unfortunately, buddy, cryptocurrencies in the stock market are trending pretty identical right now. As you can see, this is the S&P 500. And it looks pretty similar to cryptocurrencies right now when it comes to, of course, the price movement. So why am I bringing this up? Well, cryptocurrencies had their big downturn recently due to the stock market having a big downturn. And it is very likely that if the stock market does have another downturn, cryptocurrencies are going to fall as well. No doubt about it. I don't care who says that cryptocurrencies aren't going to fall or how bullish you are. You have to be realistic and say to yourself, cryptocurrencies nonetheless are going to take a hit if the stock market has another major leg down. Now, the stock market just recently tested a major level of resistance on April 29th right here at this peak, and unfortunately we did get rejected. So we are on Friday, the market did close red. Today and for the rest of the week, we will have to keep an eye on that to see where things go. But if the stock market begins to trend down again, and even tests its previous bottom and has a double bottom, cryptocurrencies are going to follow. And surprisingly enough, it's kind of very coincidental, but you know, it may correlate very close to the halving coming up, as ridiculous as that sounds. So that's just something to consider if you are a cryptocurrency investor and you're looking to buy or sell very soon. Just keep an eye on the stock market as well, because the stock market will indicate right now where cryptocurrencies are going to go as well. So where do we stand with all this? Well, in my humble opinion, as we work our way up to the halving within the next couple of days, we are going to most likely see some major green days. If we want to continue to higher levels up to the halving, we have to break this resistance level. We have to break it, and that, in my opinion, is going to be very hard to do. If we break that, great. We could easily test $10,000 before having another dip back down. But if we don't break this prior to the halving, I think we are going to see a pretty hefty dump after the halving. Keep in mind, guys, I know people like to refer back to 2016 and 2014 halvings, or I'm sorry, 2012 halving. But you need to understand, back in the day for the 2016 and the 2012 halving, times were different. There was way less people in the cryptocurrency space. The majority of investors didn't even know what the hell a halving was, and they didn't care. They were just buying and buying. And, you know, things were different. Now in cryptocurrencies, if everyone is anticipating the halving from here on every 4 years, you need to expect this to be a buy the rumor, sell the news event. And I hate to say it, but in the short term, you need to look at it that way. You need to look at it as, for example, everyone's buying the rumor right here. It's pumping up. It's going to trade all the way to the halving, and then it's going to dump on the news. In my opinion, that might be what we're seeing right now. Now, don't get me wrong. I am very, very bullish for the rest of the year. I think Bitcoin has a very high probability of testing $20,000, but this video is solely focusing on the next 20 days at most. That's all we're focusing on. We're talking about, should you buy Bitcoin before the halving or after the halving right now? In my opinion, what I'm personally doing, I'm not touching Bitcoin. I am not touching Bitcoin or any cryptocurrencies until we see what happens right before, as in like a day before or right after the halving, and then see where things play out. You know, with the RSI overbought still, with the market being pumped up with the stock market and everything else right now, it just doesn't seem probable to me that, you know, new buyers are going to flood into the space, especially with all these fundamentals of, you know, the virus still continuing to flock the world, and the economy having major downturns as well. It just doesn't add up right now. So that's my take on things. If as we work up to the halving, we may see a little more move upward, getting people to FOMO in, and then after the halving, we're going to have a dump, and then that's that. So where could we range to if we do have a dump? Well, first off, this light blue line is going to be a major level of support as of right now, around $83 to $8,200. We also have this moving average right here. I believe that's the 200-day. Let's take a look. Yeah, the 200-day right here. And we just did have a death cross as well. So this could possibly be a option. If Bitcoin dumps down to, say Bitcoin dumps down to 7,300, for example, we do have this 50-day right here to support it, and that's great. We could start working our way back up. Bitcoin gets back to around 8,300. The 200-day comes on in to help support Bitcoin at this level, and then we have a golden cross with the 50-day and the 200-day, and that's when we can begin to range higher. So if we have a dump, don't get me wrong, I don't think, you know, we're going to drop down to $4,000. In my opinion, it's hard to believe we get to those levels. The only way I could see that happening is if we have a huge dump in the stock market again. But, you know, if we do touch 6,000, okay, mid $6,000 range, okay, that'd be great. Great buying opportunity. If we get to low $7,000, I can see that. But nonetheless, the main level of support I'm personally paying attention to is $7,300. 8,200 is most likely going to happen nonetheless. You know, we've been ranging around that price level for a very long time now. But 7,300 is the price where I would see us possibly turning around at for the halving. And again, that's when we'd have that opportunity to work our way back up with the 50-day supporting us, and then we'd have the 200-day to come on in and create a golden cross, and that's when we can go to infinity and beyond. So I hope all of that makes sense, guys. You know, I know there's a lot going on in the world, a lot of indicators all over the screen, but that's my current viewpoint on the market right now and where I personally think things can be going over the next week or so. So I'm currently in a 70% cash position, and I currently hold 3 altcoins and a little bit of Bitcoin. But as of now, I am waiting for a correction, as I really do think it is going to happen. Leave a comment down below where you guys think Bitcoin is going to go over the next week, as well as right after the halving, you know, the next 20 days or so. I would love to know your opinion down below. And as always, if you did find this video informative, hit hit that subscribe button, give it a thumbs up, do whatever you want to do. Maybe give it a thumbs down if you didn't like the video. It is what it is. But nonetheless, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next.